Welcome to Dead Headspace. I am your host, Patrick R. McDonough, joined always by my co-host, Brennan LaFaro. Say hi, Brennan.
Hello, everybody.
And today we are talking with Schill. She's an illustrator, author, associate editor at Pseudopod, amongst many other things. Say hi, Maggie.
What's up? Hi. Stupidest guy in the world, isn't it?
The show is a part of Silver Shamrock's Hardcast, a podcast network that includes Killing Time with Silver Shamrock and I'm Burying the Dead, where we exhume classic horror paperbacks for the new generation. So let's just dive right into it. What got you into horror?
Horror? Well, I've loved horror since I was a kid. Okay, this is a story. I said I was an extrovert, so I sell stories. When I was a kid, I can distinctly remember being young, like itty bitty, like kindergarten age, and Alien came on a TV. My dad never liked it when I watched like horror stuff because like, oh, it's going to dement your mind. It's too scary for you. He said it's too scary for you. That'll give you nightmares. Backstory, I grew up in a town called Fall River, Massachusetts. It has a 75% opioid epidemic going on. And I regularly saw dead bodies on the street growing up. But my dad said that the horror movies were too scary for me. So I think what really attached me to it was the fact that a horror and story, you know, like Stories Tell in the Dark, my favorite book as a child, and those things were controllable horror. They were controllable. They were packaged. They were cathartic. You could feel scared and then know it was over when it's end. That was a preferable world to the one outside my front door. A controllable horror. It helped my little mind, which my dad never understood, I think, conceptualize the world around me, which fucking sucked, you know? So I'd say I got into horror because, I don't know, mental illness from childhood trauma. There you go.
Brennan, this really feels like something that you would jump into. So go ahead, man.
I absolutely love that answer. The idea of trying to exert some kind of control over, the horrible happenings around you, when you are kind of thrust into it in your everyday life and it just feels like, I don't know, tumultuous, I guess. And you just never know what you're going to walk out that front door and see. And I can empathize with you. Fall River's about 10 minutes down the road from me. I lived there.
You've been there.
I've lived there, yeah. My first two apartments were both in Fall River, and not, in a really horrendous area of town, especially the second one. But you can't live there and make your way around the city and not see that side of it. It doesn't try to hide. I actually there was the article you had originally written for Patrick at Deadhead Reviews. There was a line in there I loved. You said that Fall River is dotted with the ruins of Victorian grandeur. And
that's such a good line.
I just don't know a more accurate way to describe it.
I grew up living in a Victorian house that used to be a Victorian mansion crumbling around me. And there's always this feeling as a child, you knew where these houses came from. It's like you're living in the corpse of opulence. That's what it always felt like. Beautiful houses, and you're just sitting in its skeleton, basically, rotting with it. It's horrible.
It's really, I know you lived it, but that is just horrifically beautifully stated. That's a lot.
I want a Victorian house now, honestly.
Me too.
One that's not falling apart around me would be great.
And we're gonna get to it, or I guess we're gonna talk about it now. But that story is titled "The Long Nail Woman and Other Musings of a Creepy Little Girl," and you can check that out right now on deadheadspace.com. Not just to be clear, not now recording, but like when this comes out. It's always weird to say that out loud because it's always a few weeks ahead of time. But when I first read that, it just, I can't tell if it's written to be ambiguous. Is this really happening? Is this something that a child's imagining, or is it just something back to the first part? It's a little girl that happens to see a real event. Either way, it scared the shit out of me. And still, I read it 2 years ago when you first sent it to us. It still creeps me out.
It's not a story. It's a personal essay. I was a little child. I can't tell you if it's real. I personally don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. I am the skeptic, the only skeptic I know that will welcomely go on a Bigfoot hunt in a haunted house recording, like just sitting there like, demons, where are you? Like annoying everyone who actually believes in it. But yeah, that was real. And as a child, it is ambiguous because one, childhood is inherently traumatic. I don't care if you had the best parents, came from the most prosperous area, childhood is traumatic, period. And with that trauma, I think overlaps almost a dysphoria, especially in trying to recall in memory, it's dysphoria. So did it really happen? Was it imagination? Was it the fact that our memory cells aren't quite fully fired when they're young? So the blend between reality and fantasy is really thin at that age.
That's, wow. You just said the smartest, you concisely said what I always thought about young adult fiction, like Chronicles of Narnia. I'll even throw in Lord of the Rings, fantasy. I like stories that bring me back to childhood. Brennan's debut book, Slattery Falls, it's not children, but it is it's not even adolescence. It's young 20-year-olds. Brennan, am I mistaken on that?
No, I think it's the new coming of age in 2021, 2022 is your early 20s are the new late teens.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a great way to say that, because it could be real, but who cares? Because it's just fun or terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Brennan, I had a thought, but I lost it during me trying to say something smart. So you go ahead, buddy.
I mean, I would even say, you were kind of on that. Did it happen? Did it not? I would even add, does it matter? Your experience looking back on that and writing that essay as an adult, whether I don't even want to. I would love people to go to the website and read it for themselves. I mean, I think that describing this phenomenon as the long-nailed woman is enough of a draw. You can vividly paint that picture in your imagination, and then go and read it for yourself. But regardless of, first of all, there's no way to tangibly prove yes or no, and regardless, looking back on that as an adult, you're going to have kind of the impact is already done.
Mm-hmm.
And something just to point out, Fall River may sound familiar to a lot of you, and for those that can't pinpoint why, it's because that is the famous city of Lizzie Borden.
Mm-hmm.
I dated a girl years back, right, like a few years before I met my wife, and she lived in Swansea, I believe. Yeah, Swansea.
Across the river.
Yeah, but she had family in Fall River. And we were there quite often, and it's, I like the what's that park called where it's a naval ship, it's got a carousel.
It's really simple. It's
Maggie.
Was that me, you, was that everybody? Because you froze on my screen for a minute. I thought it was just Maggie at first, but oh my gosh, she's gone. That's horrifying.
What did Jed Shepard? Jed Shepard take over?
Oh, okay. I thought something was wrong with my computer. I have no idea. So everything froze on me for a second.
Yeah.
Battleship Cove. I found it.
There we go. So you just had a moment where, for audio listeners aren't going to see it, but you had a moment where, since you have a background where it's like a haunted library, you were there, and then you just...
Oh no.
Not.
And I don't know if you saw Host, the movie that came out last year, but there is a scene that kind of reminded me of that. So that was creepy, especially considering what we were talking about. But yeah, Battleship Cove. That's a really neat park. I did see when Black Lives Matter, when that movement got, I don't even know if hitting its peak is the right phrase, but when it was super popular, or when it was in its biggest
All the protests were going on.
that's it. I did see at Fall River at that specific park. There was a very peaceful protest with the citizens and cops, and it was really beautiful. But it's crazy because, like, I've gone there and it's really fun. You can bring your kids, but at the same time, people have been stabbed there. So.
Yeah, I used to go to see bands over at the fairground near Battleship Cove all the time, and I mean, someone's doing heroin, someone's getting stabbed. I was surprised that Fall River partook in a Black Lives Matter movement. If you've lived in Fall River, that's a racist city. It's the proximity of Boston or something.
I'm really surprised that was super peaceful. But I just have one more question about Fall River, and that was if you can attribute growing up there in any way, because New England, it's got a reputation for birthing horror fiction, horror writers. You name it, from Nathaniel Hawthorne. I consider him to be at least adjacent to horror. But him, King, Poe, Lovecraft,
yeah,
a bunch, others. Oh, you're wearing a Lovecraft shirt too, aren't you?
No, I'm wearing a Mothman.
So okay.
I also have the Lovecraft one. That's like the Miskatonic University. Sure, I got that one too.
That's neat. So, is there anything that you can think of that you can attribute growing up, where you grew up, to your love for, besides what we talked about, your love for fiction, horror fiction?
Speaking of like Fall River specifically, horror is like in the dirt there, and I don't know if Brendan knows anything about this. It's called something called the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yeah.
It connects Bridgewater to Fall River, and then what is the one up north? I forget. Anything up north of Fall River, we never see.
Yeah, that was my hometown, Bridgewater.
My dad is born in Bridgewater. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, cool place. But yeah, that is considered like the Bermuda Triangle on land in New England. It's haunted ground, basically. It happens in the Bridgewater Triangle.
It's really funny, going back to when we first started the show, 2 years ago, but the show didn't air till a little bit after we recorded an episode. But we were talking about the Bridgewater Triangle with an Australian author, and he's heard of it because he's into that sort of thing. But at that point, Brendan hadn't heard of it, and it was so funny because he grew up near it and he never heard of it. But this guy from Australia is like, "Oh, I know all about that." It's just it is so bizarre how that stuff works, because I didn't know about it for years.
Yeah, you didn't know about the goblins?
Not as
Fall River goblins?
Not as a kid.
Nope. No. Yeah, when the Globe Street fire, that famous fire that happened like early 20th century, all workers were sitting on the Braga Bridge watching the mills just burn to the ground. They said they saw goblins in the fire. And there's been goblin sightings on the reservation for decades since then. So there's this belief, because Fall River came from the word Quikashan, which means water underneath. There's cave systems all under Fall River. And there's like some folklore around there that it's filled with not okay things, essentially. This entire city is built on cursed land or something. Bad shit happens in Fall River, honestly. A lot of it.
I did not know about that. Plus, another thing that's not really talked about in at least American history classes, like in high school or those levels, is King Philip's War. I mean, that is the bloodiest war on U.S. soil per capita. It's more bloody per capita than the Civil War, and we flat out really don't talk about it. And I grew up right next to Plymouth, and we didn't really talk about it. It shaped our country. I'm gonna jump to terrible segue. I'm gonna jump to Pseudopod. I'm curious how you
Yes.
got involved with that.
I have a mentor called Mary Robinette Kowal. And she, for some reason, has like all connections within pro markets. And she sent out a call like, hey, Escape Artists is looking for an editor, which is our parent company, Escape Artists Incorporated. And they're like, oh, they need an opening for Podcastle, you know, and because that's a fantasy podcast. Like, okay, and I applied over there, and I don't know, something about my resume, like they're like, do you want to join Pseudopod? And I was like, okay, what's a Pseudopod? They're like, it's the horror one. Like, okay, I don't know why I got bounced, but they looked at my my CV and was just like, I'm here. They need help at Pseudopod instead. Okay. But my reference worked. I had a reference.
That's a big one. Like, it's fair to say, I know they've been going on for 10 plus years. It's a really popular podcast.
Yeah. I just learned that like 6 years ago.
What's your experience been?
Very good. Especially going to conventions. Like, I get a lot of panels with different editors from other pro markets. And my best experience is when I sit with someone with an unnamed market that is very prestigious or something, and they wax poetic about like stories, and I'm sitting there as someone from Pseudopod, and I usually have like my boss Alex is there, and we're just sitting there like gremlins, being like, does this the one punchy? Is this the punchy one we're talking about? Oh no, it was the one with the creepy girl. No, that you're thinking about the one with the guy fucked the egg. We receive horrible stuff, by the way. Not horrible story. The stories like we get sent are like mostly just wonderful. We have great writers, and I pretty much can ask to be on projects, and they'll put me on projects I want to be on. Right now, I'm in general submissions, meaning anyone who submits during our open season, like I demand to be in that because I like reading the new stories from people I haven't seen before or seen familiar names. My other duty is I'm working on the public domain project because we like to run programs of stuff that is coming into the public domain. One, they're free. Two, there's a lot of authors, especially from the pulp era, that they don't get like notoriety anymore. And I mean, H.P. Lovecraft, everyone knows H.P. Lovecraft. But the reason people know H.P. Lovecraft is because he was really bad at business. And he didn't have an estate and he didn't retain his rights. So he was just floating in the public domain from the beginning. That's why, but there are other cosmic horror authors from the pulp era, women, everything. And they're not well known because they made money in their life and they knew how to protect their estate. And we're just now having the public domain reach us. I work, but your question, you see, I ramble because I'm an
do it.
You can't shut me up.
No, do it. I mean, first off, I still hear your accent.
Yeah.
I don't know why I don't have one, really. Brennan, I don't really hear one either, but I can definitely hear yours. And we like when people ramble because they tend to say a lot of interesting stuff like you're saying right now.
Content. But my duties are projects. I work on projects. I go to meetings. I go to conventions. I promote. And I often work on actual editing. I'm an editor. So I write editorial notes and I work with authors to get things where they should be. And I pass things back and forth to my executive editors, and we make decisions. And recently I've been recording podcasts for them, hosting. So
I did see that. I did see that as of recently. You had some. You were on there with a few authors. So, is that your first time hosting?
Yes, apparently that's something I'm getting into. You see, a podcast, I'm cool just talking, rambling, because you're a human. You give me a script, and I'm like, how do I human? Like immediately.
What's it been like though, as far as doing that type of podcast?
It's pretty good. Like it's pre-recorded, and Marty, the audio dude, he is an amazing person because what he put on air was so much superior to what I recorded. So now it's pretty good. I can relax saying, you know what, Marty, he's the guy. Doesn't matter how much I stutter or just start rambling off and or sounds of pages dropping, he'll get rid of that shit. He will spin my shit into gold every time. So I'm a lot more relaxed about it.
I totally get it. Yeah, it's you got someone that is good with the technical stuff, you're probably okay, unless well, I fuck up a lot too, so yeah, you're good. Brandon, take over.
All right. So one thing I wanted to talk about is, and I think that we had a question from Twitter, which actually came from you, that is going to tie into this. But I want to talk about balance because you got a lot on your plate. You've got Pseudopod. You write sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. You're an illustrator. You are a survivor advocate. So tell us a little bit about balance. How do you keep all that without, getting overwhelmed?
I did mention Prozac off screen, so that's a lot. But also, I am not the best at balance. I'm really bad at it. I am someone who gets up and I don't stop working until I literally collapse around 4:00, sleep, and then get up and make dinner because, I'm still married. I have a family and all that, I'm the worst person to ask about this because my work ethic is unhealthy at this point. But especially during 2020 when the pandemic hit, I discovered something called balance in that I was doing a lot of advocacy work. And there is nothing worse than a pandemic when people are stuck home with their abusers and doing advocacy. So I took a step back from advocacy work and focused on the other side of that, which is activism work. And it's less working with victims, and it's more working with policy and stuff. That was emotionally easier. I had about 7 people in my family die, tons of work in publishing. Everyone's in New York. Every 5 seconds you read hey, this guy you met at a con is dead.
Oh my God.
It's overwhelming. Publishing happens in New York. New York got hit the hell out of it. So I end up with this problem that I am overwhelmed and going toward advocacy because I still want to do something, and just taking a breather from the emotional load helped. But I had to burn out before I came to that. I feel like there's a lot of people who do that. They just burn out. I'm the type of person that just keeps taking on stuff. I was like, I'm going to be an art show. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy these $300 scrolls because I'm a Sumi artist. And they're 6 feet long. And I'm going to make some master canvases.
Holy shit.
They've just been sitting there because they're $300 silk scrolls. And the rule of Sumi is that you one straight line. And I've wasted $250. So procrastinating because of the pressure of messing up is really high, especially for the cost of it. Sumi's a very large, man.
What are you gonna draw in there?
There's a Buddhist saying that never attach your identity to anything that can be taken from you. And there is a very specific kona of a woman nude from behind staring off at the mountains. And that is usually the symbol of that kona. Something you're supposed to think on, like, what can't be taken from me? That's what I attach my identity to. You sit there and think about it. And good answer.
No, I'm thinking I'd be nervous too to draw on that. If I fuck it up, then that's a lot of money.
That's why I bought 2. I have 2 of them. It's a lot of money. So those are going to be on sale for like $3,200.
Whoa.
It was a lot of sunk cost.
Mhm.
Mess up the other one. I have another one that I gotta worry about.
I can't get over that. I'd be so freaking nervous. It's not like you can go to Michael's and pay
No,
like $30 for it. What do you do?
no,
What do you do to practice? Do you practice, or is it just like, hey,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
give it a shot? Okay.
I practice, but you can practice strokes. You can't practice the entire piece because it's a 6 foot tall scroll. What I can do is take rice paper. It's this very thin paper, and you can practice strokes that you want to do on it until you feel like I'm really comfortable with how a branch gets slided and slugged. I'm gonna do that. That's all you can do, and hope.
What got you into that? Because I noticed that art style is kind of your go-to. What got you into that art style?
Honestly, I don't know. I like Japanese tradition, part Japanese. Maybe there's a part of me that's trying to like connect to like the ancestor or whatnot. Like,
Good.
because it being in America, I mean, we're kind of disconnected in a way from our ancestry. Because the first generation, after the ones that came over, they try to Americanize as much as they want. And I'm stuck in the generation that came right after them, and we're craving our roots. Where is our history? That's why my name is Maggie May. It's a Rod Stewart song. So American, right? Rock and roll. But yeah, I'm at home trying to make Portuguese sweetbread and figure out how to sumi paint and make my calligraphy better. It's that crap.
Portuguese food is just simply amazing.
I make it.
Yeah, I mean, like,
My vote made it. I make it.
I mean, it ain't a surprise to you or Brennan. I mean, a lot of my family is also from Taunton. That's super heavily Portuguese, everything. And when I did eat meat, I really liked linguiça, chouriço.
Saris. Yep.
That's how I say it. I'm a white boy. I can't say that shit.
Saris. I like linguiça. I like linguiça better than chorizo.
Brennan pointed out something to me. He texted me something when we were talking about the Fall River thing. I wanted to bring it up, that Fall River really does seem like the Derry of New England. Although, wait, that doesn't make sense. Derry is in New England. Okay, Fall River seems like the Derry of Massachusetts.
Fall River is the Fall River of Massachusetts, because usually Fall River is my term for the low of a state at this point.
I mean, it's whatever you want it to be.
I'm living in Jacksonville. I'm like, Baldwin, that's like the Fall River of Florida.
Well, how long have you
It's
been?
rough.
How long have you been in Florida for? Why Florida?
Why Florida? I was chasing a boyfriend, and I ran away because I lived in Fall River. Of course, I had that kind of beginning. Chasing a boyfriend, but I left home at 18. I don't remember how old I am. Wow. I'm in my 30s, so 18 to mid 30s, so close to 15 years, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Or just under 15 years, yeah.
That's all right. I thought it was 32 and I'm 33.
No, I'm older than that. We won't talk about that, but I know I'm older.
I don't ask women about their age. That's how I get slapped.
Yeah.
Brennan, I'm going to give it to you and then I'm going to steal it back.
I want to go back a little bit. You were talking about, well, first of all, Patrick ridiculed me for asking such a question about balance. But in the event that we have somebody on here who's, not just known for one thing, but who kind of has their finger in a lot of pies, I think that that's always a valuable question to ask, even if that person says, you know what, truth be told, I don't handle it well. Because I think there are a lot of people creative types who maybe try one thing, but they end up doing a fair bit, and they need, I don't want to necessarily say they need to know it's okay to not be good at balance or to have trouble with balance, but to know that that can be an issue. And that even people who, are putting up this beautiful art who, you know, are writing these creepy ass long-nailed women's stories, and who are, you know, helping with advocacy and just with like kind of human stuff, you know, helping people be their best, are still going to kind of struggle with those issues.
Yeah, nothing's serene here.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I'm a mess. I'll admit I'm a mess. I was at a convention, and last convention was at Multiverse, and one of the editors of my company, Jessica, was there, and she saw me running back and forth, and I was like, oh, my neck hurts, and I was running forth, and she stopped me and said, when was the last time you ate? And I was like, yesterday. And it was like 4:00 in the afternoon already. And she's like, I'm gonna go get you pho, just cupping the face. I'm gonna get you pho because you're not all right now. And it helps to have people who just can know the signs of you're breaking down and stop you. I would not survive without other people.
Yeah. I think that you know, I try not to burn the candle at both ends to burn out, but to have a support system right here at home to say, gee, you've been sitting at that desk for an awfully long time, and do you really need to edit that for 4 hours straight? Maybe you should come out of there and, you know, read a book or watch some TV or eat some lunch.
And get a drink.
Yeah, to have something with a proof. It's an invaluable support system.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I bought a little tracker. Basically, I'm the Neopet I'm trying to keep alive. It tells me when I'm tired. It tells me when I'm dehydrated. It tells me when I haven't moved around in a half-hour period. It tells me how long I've slept. It tells me when my heart rate gets too high from anxiety. I am the Neopet, and I'm trying to keep myself alive at this point. So well anything outside of me that can keep track, other people, devices, because I'm a mess. I don't know what balance is half the time. And that's okay. That's most people. I don't think if I sat here and being like, I got everything together and I have the answers, it really wouldn't be helpful to anyone. I did a podcast with Chuck Wendig late last year, and it was about balance in the age of the vid, you know, and he would be far more insightful for you to interview on this topic, because I was sitting there like they're supposed to be interviewing me as well, but I'm just like, Chuck, give me the answers. And then I bought his mug.
We haven't announced it yet, but we are having him on.
Yeah.
Summer? Yeah, summer. This summer.
Right. Tell him I love him and he helped me. I am a friggin' mess, and he was a guru that had some answers.
I got questions for him too. Like, how the fuck do you write so many fat books?
Oh, God. Break his hand. Tell him I want to break his hands.
I hope that your Neopet is not going to end up like my Tamagotchi, which died with little 8-bit pieces of poop surrounding it because I didn't clean it.
And it had little wings on the side.
Yeah, remember those? I mean, I think they're coming back or have come back.
Yeah.
You're transporting us all back to 1995 now.
The age of Duncan yo-yos.
I love that. I have fireball yo-yos were pretty big when I was
Palms. I still have my palms.
Yep.
All of them. The slammers.
Yeah, Brandon and I were talking about all that crap a couple of months ago. I miss that. Childhood's fun.
And traumatic,
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God. I have had a sick child the last few days, and it's been a lot. So my brain's poop right now. Brennan, do you have one more thing to cover us why I go search my memory banks for whatever the fuck I was thinking?
Yeah.
I was gonna add in that I found it just interesting. You said you have to burn out before you can move on. It's you keep hitting us with these little profundities, and most of them are just describing what a hellhole Fall River was. But that's a good, you know, non-Massachusetts one to know when it's time to do something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think usually what they say, like rock bottom is a foundation to move on. I like, yeah, every time I burnt out. I'm at my wit's end. I can't do anymore. And it's just kind of like rolling over to something else that's easier to compound, and like you have to nourish yourself back up. It would be healthier to nourish as I go, but I find that I burn out. There's no fuel left. And then I kind of just recede and start bringing in fuel. Doing all this stuff, small business owner, editor, it adds up. And I have trolls that attack me like every day. That adds up. That's why I'm on my Twitter right now.
No one likes trolls.
My own stuff, and people leave me the hell alone.
I totally get it. Yeah, fuck them. Joe Meinhardt, that's who I wanted to talk about. He is the founder of Crystal Lake Publishing. I forget when, it was years ago, said that I'm paraphrasing here, but basically it's great to try to pursue your writing career, but don't allow it to overcome your family life, because you may end up single. And I'm balancing, I have a young family too, 2-year-old and a wife, and yeah, it's like yesterday I wanted to work on a short story, and wasn't happening. And I often remind myself, and I'm only bringing this up because maybe it'll help someone listening, but I gotta remind myself that my little guy ain't gonna be little forever, and I'm really, really gonna miss these times. So those are always better than short story.
Yeah, be present.
Yeah, that's something I'm working I'm working on that every day. I'm not very good at it some days.
But yeah, because I always have that worry that because I'm the type of personality that does this, you make whatever you're doing your life. So you don't have a life. I talked about that, Kona, like don't attach your identity to anything someone can take from you. That's so much like getting caught up in writing or a career or art, to the point where it should be supplementing the joy in your life now, but now it's your entire life, meaning your real life is, your kid, your family, and it's just dwindling away. Been doing a keto since I was like early college. And there was a point to where I was a career Aikidoka. That's what I was. But then one day I had a falling out with the husband of my sensei. Like, this guy is just a piece of work. It's like the typical narcissistic guy, basically. Because I had a falling out with him, and I finally said to my sensei, I can't take this. And then, she's going to choose her husband over me. And I was gone. And no one in my federation would touch me as a student. No one. So this thing that was my entire life, basically my career and how much time I put into it, gone.
Wow.
But now I'm doing a keto again, and it's so different. I stood home from a keto class tonight to do this podcast because I decided this podcast is important. It's not that not important, but I need the ability to say no to that keto and say yes to the other facets of my life.
Well, we appreciate the hell out of that. And that's really interesting to bring up. I got caught up in social media too much to the point where I took 2 months off, and it helped me pull my head out my ass. So I can definitely understand that. Is there, for those that don't know, I kind of want to touch on this before I forget about it, but the advocacy for, well, specifically survivor advocacy, I can't say that word. Is there a whole lot that people can do online, or is there places that you would suggest looking into?
Mostly, I've been dealing with, now that I'm more in activism, convention safety. And of course, I would suggest any women's shelter, please donate, please volunteer. In Jacksonville, we have the Hubbard House. There's something near you. Nothing you can do is treat victims as though you believe them, just as you believe them. No default with criticism. That's always helpful. It destigmatizes because I rather believe them and be wrong than believe a rapist and be wrong.
Yeah, kind of a big.
I'd rather believe a liar than believe a rapist. So I always side with the liar, which is quote unquote.
Yeah, there is a lot of talk about like for those that may know it, Brian Keene's The Horror Show. He brought it up a few times. Richard Lehman's daughter had a terrible incident, and I'm only naming her because she was talking on the podcast.
She's been open about it.
Don't name. Should say that. Don't name people unless they're very, very clear on it's okay. But she was on an episode talking about it, and it's more rampant than I ever would have imagined. I've only been to one con, and that was Scares of Care last year. But I'm a big dude, so I got I probably won't ever have any understanding of it. What can you tell people that are thinking about going to conventions or whatever? Because it's not exclusive to book conventions.
You should get in touch on the online community of that convention before you go. You can tell a lot about what the atmosphere and really the culture is going to be like just by the people who are online that go to it. Every convention should have an HR or something similar to an HR. If they don't, they probably aren't equipped to handle assault and harassment. A lot of cons, their only statement about harassment is, don't worry, come tell me and I'll do something about it. That actually isn't it. It's like sentiment appreciated, but it actually isn't the answer to what's going on. That is
right.
Fix something after already happened. They should have plans in place to prevent that sort of thing. And usually it is a big guy who says, just come to me, which is, again, sentiment appreciated. Thank you for looking out for people. But I've been getting this a lot with cons is men say that, appreciate that. But I was like, do you know 1 out of every 10 is men who get assaulted at conventions? So you say that as if you will never be a victim. Even if you're a big burly man, you think you'll never be a victim. Because it's just hard. It's really hard,
Yeah, I wouldn't even. I'm obviously ignorant on it. I never would have even thought of that. Because I just said I'm a big guy, so I probably
it might. And you'll think, and some people say, well, if that happens, I can just punch the dude. And I was like, what if it's a woman? Are you gonna punch her? Is there in this world? Okay, what if it is someone who has control over your career? Would you punch him? What if it is your best friend for years that you've trusted, and for you to confront them about it would destroy decades of a relationship? It's complicated. Like, there's all these reasons why you, being a big guy, wouldn't just punch the person.
Yeah, that ain't always the answer. It's probably not.
There's a lot. People don't assault or harass, abuse other people that they are on equal footing with. So what will happen is you, a big burly guy that's intimidating, anyone who's intimidated isn't going to dare do that to you. The people that will do that to you is the people that have a disproportionate amount of power to you. Feel safe because you won't tell, because you'll lose your career, you'll lose your social standing. It'll fuck your life up. So you'll never tell. And you'll be sure that no one believe you if you did because of how well respected this person is in your industry. That's the story I hear from men at conventions. And they are honestly feeling what women feel at that moment. The thing is, men don't report. But can't tell you the exact statistics. Like 1 out of every 10 reports is a man. And the thing is, those are usually gay men. They usually feel comfortable reporting.
That's sad.
Setting. Straight men very rarely report, and I know it's happening more often.
Probably. Again, I have only a terrible segue unless you, Maggie, or Brennan, you have anything to add on to this. All I gotta really say is just like, speak up and kind of do your research to just look out for yourself.
And I didn't mean to take away the problem of women in con convention.
No,
It's just like in my mind, it clicked like the most under talked about thing in con safety is what men deal with. Your thought of a victim is always a woman.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really even thought of. Well, I mean, I'm repeating myself. I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up, though.
Yeah, it's very important to remember that the abuser, it's never going to be that creepy guy with greasy hair wearing the sweaty night wish shirt in the corner of convention. That guy has no power. Everyone thinks he's creepy. Everyone would tell on him in a minute.
Right.
It's not going to be the one assaulting someone. It's going to be someone that you can't tell on every time.
That sucks.
Got to keep that in your mind, which is why it's harder.
And for me personally, I mean, I just think like, well, I don't currently have a career right now, and I got my family to lean back on. I know everyone doesn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like I would just kind of walk away. I don't really like confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
Or tell them to go fuck themselves, but I'd walk away.
Yeah.
I'll fight.
If you got nothing to lose, I mean, it's a lot easier. But you would never be a target if you didn't have anything to lose either.
That's true.
True.
Well, these are good points. Yeah, if you guys are okay with it, I'd actually like to talk about your writing a little bit there, Maggie.
Me? Okay.
Tell, for those that don't know, potential readers, we've already tackled what you write, but specifically some books that you are a part of.
Right now, I'm mostly a part of podcasts because I work for podcasts and having short stories out on podcasts. Horror, fantasy, and science fiction. Specifically, I am working on and just pretty much finished a epic fantasy. So, as a horror writer, I'm writing a fantasy.
Well, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Tell me about that epic fantasy.
I have been studying kabuki for like years and years and years, and I made a second world fantasy based upon it's very Edo Japan. It's not Edo Japan, it's second world, but it's very Edo Japan. I just didn't want to play with the history of Japan because you can't change like too much without it, someone's gonna yell at you. So make it second world or alternate history. But it's based on the structure of a kabuki play, because we all know, the Joseph Campbell way of the hero, 3-act play. It's a very Western way of telling a story. But if you've ever been a fan of Yojimbo, the old samurai, the old samurai movies, You'll know that Japanese storytelling is 5 parts. They are 5-part plays. And kabuki is 5 parts, or instances of 5 parts. They can be up to 15, but it's always 5 segment. So that was a long way to say that I'm attempting, I think I did pretty well, to try to structure for a modern fantasy audience the traditions of kabuki storytelling.
That's pretty damn cool.
Right now called kabuki. That might change, I don't know.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And I did see that some of your influences we share. One of them was C.S. Lewis, talked about Chronicles of Narnia, but also an interesting one, Philip K. Dick. I'm just, I'd like to know what it is about Dick that's not how I want to word that. What is it about Philip K. Dick that you find
It's about Dick I love.
What is it about?
That's good.
What is it about Philip K.D. that you like so much?
Probably the heroin. There was, in seriousness, the heroin. He was always this line between what is real and not real. He's a master of the unreliable storyteller, because there was always like a break in reality for him. So once I read Scanners Darkly, you know, like you watch the movie Blade Runner and all that, and it's like, yeah, there's this feeling of not quite being conscious in the stories that's going, very unreliable, and I know that's probably because he was a drug addict. That's how
Probably.
it was all the time. But not advocating drug use. Put it out there. But yeah, I found that very interesting. I'm in love with the unreliable narrator, honestly.
It's really addicting, because it leads to more questions and you got more people talking eventually too. So
it's the Moby Dick effect, because that's an unreliable narrator. Ishmael, he's talking about like little skip ships as though they were the Ark of the Covenant coming down, put on the angels. This guy is out of it. That was one of my first things about unreliable narrator, someone making me read a Moby Dick, and the only thing I found great about it was I really liked the narrator.
what about the Brennan and I talked about Moby Dick off here, and you talk about it. I don't want to misquote you.
I don't know if you're thinking of the fact that there are just multiple chapters that read like a visit to a natural history museum.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But you were talking about specifically, I wanted to talk about the last chapter. You said basically that's like, it kind of is worth it at the end.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who knows the story of Moby Dick and picks up the 500-page book or whatever it is, I mean, you can kind of skip to page 480 and there's your story. If you don't want to wade through the whale anatomy and the history of New Bedford and the unreliable narration, you can get all your action in about 20 pages.
New Bedford, the sister city of Fall River. They're almost like right near each other.
Connected by goblin tunnels, probably.
Yes, they are.
Are they really? I had never heard of the
underwater
tunnel thing before, but
it's underwater. You got it like anywhere the Taunton River flows, there are underground tunnels.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's unsettling.
Yeah, it's unsettling. There's cave-ins sometimes. It's horrible. But yeah, being an editor, it's hard to read books like Moby Dick because you have a hatchet in your hand. It was like you have your little red pen and you just want to put little things everywhere, like over-explaining. This is passive, Cut this chapter. This character appeared and then they were never mentioned again. Where did he go?
I do wonder if like Melville was alive now. I mean, I don't think it'd be about whaling, but I'd be curious how he as a modern writer would tackle that story.
Probably a lot differently. And it's mostly because back then they paid per the word. We pay per the word now, but we have limits. We actually have, like, even big houses like Tor, they have a limit to how much words they're willing to pay you for. And back then, I believe Dickinson specifically, he wrote huge freaking books, just rambling and rambling stories, serials that never ended. And it came down to it, they paid him 2 cents a word in that money time, meaning do the inflation on that. Oh my God, 2 cents a word on the Christmas Carol. My God. And he made them as wordy as possible because he owed money to a Russian gambler, a bookie in Russia. So yeah.
I'm looking up what the inflation rate would be.
Yeah, because that was
it's 1843.
1843, 2 cents per word.
So I have an holy shit. I got an inflation. No, that's not. Hold up.
I'll let you do your math. I don't know if there's any truth to this, but I had heard that, like in Dickens' time, they paid by the word. So you get these like rambling narratives and these extreme descriptions that just, pad the word count. Whereas somebody like, I'm thinking like Dumas and Hugo got paid by the page. So, you know, you get these massive tomes, but like there's so much dialogue in there, so there's just not that much on every page.
Mhm.
I don't know why I'm throwing it out to you, but do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that, but it makes sense. I know writers like Dumas were slightly more marginalized at his time in the field. His social standing wasn't great. Same thing with Victor Hugo, and this might be a very French problem, but he was marginalized. He was an advocate for sex workers in his time. He was not only a patron of sex workers, he actually petitioned for their rights and their safety and everything. He hung out every day at brothels. They were his friends. They called him daddy, like basically. So he had a love for, because you Les Mis, there's a reason why there's a character that's a prostitute and she's the most sympathetic character. He had that in his heart, but it marginalized him in his society. And I can see him getting paid by the page because of that.
Yeah.
And Dumas as well. Dumas was a Black man. His background affected his social standing at the time. He was still one of the most wealthiest Black men, but a wealthy Black man, especially in that era, will never be as good as a wealthy white man in that era. Yeah. But he's a very impressive figure. His life is like crazy.
That's really interesting.
I can see it being by the page and not quite getting everything you deserve, and then just kind of padding dialogue because you know it's gonna stack.
Yeah. I'm thrilled that I just threw two random authors at you and you gave us so much information about both of them.
I can't get, I'm struggling to find an answer on 2 cents, but I am seeing that a $100 in 1843 is worth $3,799. So
yeah,
you just got to do math now.
Yeah, too hard.
I can do it. The inflation calendar. Oh no, it's too back in time. There's no record. That's why. It's too far back in time. It's before the government started tracking inflation.
I'm going to say 8 cents a word. Nope, yeah. I'm going to say 23 cents a word.
But whatever
$6.
it was a lot.
Oh no, it would be over $10 now.
Would it really?
Yeah, it has to be because
oh man.
My dad made $1 an hour at the pump, and he's always like, these damn kids with their 7.15 or 25 or whatever. And I was like, Dad, you made like $13 an hour in this today's money. No wonder you could afford a family of 3.
Yeah.
Wait, did I miss something, or is your dad a writer?
No, my dad is not a writer. My dad is a circuit board draftsman.
Oh, okay. And at one time a gas station attendant.
He used to be a gas station attendant when he made $1 an hour. He didn't.
Holy shit.
Dad, that's like $13 now, okay?
Yeah. All right, I want to jump ahead to what are you currently reading? So Maggie, what are you currently reading?
Velvet Was the Night.
Oh, God, I'm forgetting her name. Maria. I'm
gonna let you try again.
Sylvia Moreno Garcia.
Damn it.
Mm-hmm,
there we go. I can't think for shit tonight, man.
I bought it because I love Gothic, Mexican Gothic. If you read Mexican Gothic, if you haven't, what the fuck's wrong with you? Go read Mexican Gothic by her. I love Mexican Gothic so much. I pre-ordered the next book that was coming out, and I am not disappointed. It is a noir set in I think 60s, 70s era Mexico City.
Sounds really cool.
It is cool. It's smoky. It has that same vibe of, if all the women in this world, walking in here type feel. It's that heavy, smoky noir feel, which she did excellent at that tone.
Yeah, I gotta read that. That sounds so cool.
And read Mexican Gothic, because this is a horror podcast.
I know. I've been wanting since I saw the cover. Last year?
It's a Gothic romance, and it is flipping amazing. The magic system for how the horror works will surprise and trick you and hurt your brain. It's amazing. It's very unique.
I want to experience that. Brendan, what
Yeah.
what are you reading?
I'm just thinking we're coming off of Mexican Gothic and Velvet Was the Night, which is just sheer class, like beautiful noir, like wonderful prose. And I'm going to take us to the bargain basement. I am reading Clickers by J.F. Gonzalez.
Bargain basement. Oh no.
Well, okay. I mean, nothing against Gonzalez, because this is his wheelhouse. Is the bloody and disgusting creature feature, and he certainly knew what he was doing there. And I've never read any of the Clickers books, so I am diving into this one so that I can go into the ones that Keane co-wrote with him. And I am enjoying it because it's just a bunch of little crab, lobster, scorpions just decimating people. I mean, what's not to love?
You can't be a lover of horror, you can't be an editor in horror without a great appreciation for what we call the punchums, which is just ugly monster, punch the monster.
Punchums.
We consider its own, the punchums their own genre.
It's pulp. It's rooted in the history of the genre. You're absolutely right. You can't get around it. You can't avoid it.
Always has this very Sinbad feel. Like there's not a whole lot of character development, but he's badass.
Yep.
Badass doing badass things, and you have to love that pulpiness in working horror. I don't know how you get around it, because 2/3 of the stories coming across your desk are going to be like that.
I like Sinbad. He is funny. He's in my favorite. He's in my favorite Christmas movie. That's the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I thought you were telling a joke, but you're serious right now, aren't you?
He's hilarious.
Wait.
Jingle all the way.
He's serious right now. He is completely serious, Maggie.
Hey,
he has
look,
no idea who
I'm not
Sinbad
saying.
is.
Wait, what?
We are not talking about the comedian.
There's a great history of Islamic storytelling you need to know about.
Whoa, that went way over my head. Eggs on my face, and I'm not cutting that.
I just want to know what movie you're referring to where Sinbad is a badass.
Well,
it goes around punching monsters.
Sorry, I heard Sinbad and my mind jumped to Jingle All the Way. He wasn't a badass.
Shazam! The movie that never existed.
Yeah, just like the Bernstein Beers, right?
Yeah.
So what am I reading? I'm reading Born for Trouble by Joe Lansdale, which just so happens we will be talking with him, Casey Lansdale, with guest host Sadie Hartman, aka Mother Horror, next week. Very excited for that. Yeah, she's, if you like horror, I can't even say independent horror. She covers pretty much everything. So
she's kind of a hybrid author almost.
Yeah, fair enough.
Does everything.
I'm not arguing with that. Listeners, if you want to check out Sinbad, just kidding. If you want to check out our website.
I have never, 135 episodes, I have never been so embarrassed for you.
It's public domain, you know. You want to get it
That's all right. I'm a dumbass.
on the internet.
Yeah. Totally. Hey, I'll blame it on my ADHD. And then Brendan should feel bad.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. It's a really new story. It's only like 700 years old.
Oh man. Go to our website, deadheadspace.com. You can check out Maggie's story. Seriously, it's super creepy. Maggie, where can people follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at mm_Schill. That's SCHILL. I have a website that is very bad because I need to update it and get someone who knows how to build a website involved. But that is mmschill.com. Again, Schill is spelled SCHILL.
You're good at this, like you do this for a living.
Oh yeah, I do this for fun.
So what are your...
Her last name is Schill.
Yeah.
Man, you should be a host, Brian. You're really good at this too. So do you have any final thoughts? You don't get paid though. You should, as should I.
Yeah, Pseudopod does pay.
There you go, bud.
A lot of these pro markets use free labor, but Pseudopod and Escape Artists does not. They pay.
I use free labor, but my excuse is that I pay for the show and I don't get paid myself.
If CEO isn't getting paid, no one's getting paid.
We get free books though. Yay!
Yeah.
They can go on the bookshelf and not pay the mortgage. But
Yeah, you make tens of dollars in books a year.
It's true.
do you have any final thoughts?
I don't know. I'm bad at that final thoughts, honestly. I'm just happy of anyone who got through this COVID, and we're still going through it. And if you can find any solace right now, you're awesome.
That's a great way to end that.
Be better than me. Be better than me. Don't burn out.
Brendan, any final thoughts?
And if you do burn out, on to the next endeavor.
Mhm.
Put the fuel in and on to the next endeavor.
Mhm.
Maggie, I want to thank you for your time. I know that
Thank
you
you.
had stuff to do tonight and you came here anyway. I'm also really glad that when you disappeared into the background, you eventually came back.
Yes. My vampire moment.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of piggyback off of Brendan, and I really like that. I'm actually going to put that in the preview. All that bit about Les Mis and sympathy for sex workers. I mean, it's still an issue nowadays.
It is.
I personally don't understand why two adults can't have sex and pay for it. You already do. Like when you meet, when you meet someone you love, eventually you pay for it in one form or the other. They just get it
Mhm.
cut. They're just cut and dry, but no
Oh, yeah.
strings attached.
I don't pay the mortgage.
I mean, it would save, and for real, it would say. I'm not saying anything new to you guys, but it would save a lot of lives too, and probably
Make it safer.
you
Yeah.
could start a
Regulate
union. Regulate it, start some kind of union or some kind of safety network where they're not going to back corners, getting hooked on fucked up drugs and getting raped.
No, you see, if it was regulated, that'd be a system that would benefit women as they make their own money.
Sex, drugs, and rock and
Making
roll.
their money and being deprecated as they make their own money. Everyone makes money. You make money. I make money. Everyone sells their time and body to make money.
Yeah.
I'd be judgmental over how you choose to sell your body.
Listeners, you have many choices in podcasts. Thank you for picking us.